You know, I think about us, the three of us, what we could be. I think about it all the time.
Please. It's terrible.
No, it's not. I know June. She's my friend. I care about her. How's your day going? You look pretty.
Thanks. I wore it just for you. Our father's a driver named Nick. He helped me to survive. Yes, you can, because I can't lose you.
I'm not gonna let anything happen to you.
What about you?
Your girlfriend is a badass.
Welcome to Above the Garage, a Nick and June, the Handmaid's Tale podcast. Hi, friends. Welcome to the spoiler-free analysis of Season 1, Episode 10, which is entitled Night. This analysis is intended for new watchers. We won't be talking about the show in the context of future episodes. We wanted to give a shout out to fans of The Handmaid's Tale on Facebook, which is an amazing group that's actually super active. The groups we were in before kind of got overloaded with spam and nobody uses them anymore. So if you are fans out there looking for a Facebook group with lots of discussion, you should check out Fans of The Handmaid's Tale on Facebook. And it's been amazing. There's so much discussion every day. And we love that because obviously we like to discuss The Handmaid's Tale every day. So let's do some introductions and dive in.
Hi, I'm Megan.
Hi, I'm Tina.
Hi, I'm Ginger.
Hi, I'm Scarlett.
And I'm Kate. So the episode, I don't know the name of the song it opens with. I meant to look this up.
I know it.
Oh,
it's called Simple Gifts. I sang it in choir when I was in middle school.
Yes,
so.
I did too. I did too. And I like it. I actually really like it.
Yeah, I do too.
I think it might be in Little Women too. I don't know. But I like it and it's perfect because it says, "'Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free." And they're talking about, they're at the Red Center. So they're walking up the stairs and they've just gotten there and they're completely like shell shocked and don't know what's going on. And Aunt Lydia's yelling at them that they're a parade of sluts, which is like a lot coming from just normal life into somebody screaming at you for putting your hands in your pockets and looking up.
And they're literally wearing jeans and t-shirts. So like they're not even dressed slutty or anything.
Yeah.
Not at all. I know. I always looked at that and I'm like, they're not dressed like sluts.
Yeah.
They look good.
Dressed normally.
Yep.
And she's like ordering them, which, we recognize now. She's like semicircle, equidistant, hands clasped, eyes down. And it's like, what? And I guess June just gets tased for not looking down, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty aggressive early tasing. And
well, she reads the Bible verse, humble yourself in the sights of the Lord and he shall lift you up.
Yeah.
So that must be where they get that whole like be humble and all that.
I wonder who was in charge of cherry picking the Bible. And June has a voiceover too. She said there was a way that we looked at each other at the Red Center. For a long time, I couldn't figure out what it was exactly, that expression in their eyes, in my eyes. Before you never saw it, not more than a glimpse. It was never something that could last for days, for years. And then after the scene, she says, like, it's pure terror because it's not something that, one can maintain for that long. But yeah, so Aunt Lydia is like picking on her specifically and like, how do we humble ourselves? So June bows her head and she pushes it down further. An apology will be respectful as well. And June apologizes, but the look that she gives her when Aunt Lydia insists she calls her Aunt Lydia.
Yeah.
They really just like dive right in the Red Center, Yeah. There are no baby steps.
But I love that Alma though is the first handmaid she sees.
Yeah, I love Alma so much.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go into the ear tagging room, which is like super dark, and there's just a chair in the middle because they love like scary, depressing rooms with a chair in the middle. And what is do we know the tool that they use to apply this tag?
No, I'm from Texas. I feel like I should know because I feel like it's something to do with cattle.
Yeah, I do think you should know.
Yeah. Right. I feel like I should. I don't know. I'm from the wrong part of Texas.
Yeah, well, it's scary and unpleasant.
It is very scary. Yeah, with the giant air compressor. Like,
yes.
Yeah.
That they're like struggling with the electricity or something. I don't know. That was weird.
Yeah, she unplugs it and plugs it back in. And
yeah.
But the fact that it's in a dark room too, it's like, could they make it any more terrifying?
No, they really nailed that.
Like something straight out of a horror movie.
Yeah.
And Lizzie was amazing in that scene. She's like shake. You can see she's like trembling. She's terrified. So like she nailed the terror.
She's the
like
best
she's
actress
amazing.
ever.
She's incredible. Yes. but like I noticed that like the way she's trembling was so like realistic. Like you could feel her fear was visceral in that moment, and rightfully so. I would have been terrified. Like there's an air compressor going behind me, you know.
She literally doesn't know what's happening. They've bent her head
no
over.
idea.
Like they could behead her for all she knows. And then Aunt Lydia is like, "Do you want me to count to 3?" And she does it on 1, which I can't decide if that's a nice thing or not.
Well, technically, it's a nice thing because I watch a lot of Grey's Anatomy. Okay, so I'm going to take this as gospel, but they say that like if you don't know it's coming, it hurts less because you don't have time to like, anticipate it.
Yeah.
So it's supposed to be nicer, but I don't really know if we can call that a kindness in this situation.
She's not doing it probably to be nice, but yeah, I had that exact thought. I was like, well, I guess that gave her 2 seconds less of anxiety.
Actually, in this scene, Aunt Lydia says it. I have it right here. You're so very precious. We want to lose you. So, I mean, I always had the doubt if the ear tag was like a tracking device, but it isn't. I guess it's just a way to, I don't know, identify them. But
I wonder though if they had their names, like, you know how the government just has lists of names, I'm sure. Like if you're on a no-fly list or something, and that's sent to all of the airports. I wonder if like they had names of the future handmaids or the fertile women like on lists that they sent to like airports and everything.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
like
possible.
if it's like a microchip. I wonder if it's like a microchip, not a tracker, but like, you know how they inject into animals.
Like for pets, like when we did that to our animal, we thought that it was going to like track them everywhere, but that's not what happens.
No, it just if you scan them, it comes up like this belongs to Fred Waterford.
Yeah, like
property
of say that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's depressing. And that's when she says that look was terror, utter and unutterable, tastes like gunmetal, like the point of a carpenter's nail, right before they tag her. And she says, we don't look at each other that way anymore. It's their own fault. They would never have given us uniforms if they didn't want us to be an army. While she's walking with Alma, and Alma's looking in her bag at the letter she got from the butcher. But I love that quote so much.
It's so good. Yeah, it's amazing.
I feel like it really tells the story of how this whole season came about, like her. Yeah. I know we've talked about in previous episodes, like I think it was episode 4 where she was sitting alone and all the handmaids brought her the food after she had been punished.
At the end.
So like I feel like this is just the climax of that,
It is the culmination of it all, especially at the end of the episode. For this
She found her inner rebel.
The picture matches the quote. So she hides the letters behind the bathtub, and she's completely blindsided, as was I, when she walks into a room and Serena backhands her and her head like bounces off the wall.
That hurt.
Gives her a concussion, probably.
Yeah, probably.
That like hurt me just watching that. Like you could feel how hard she hit her.
I know. You could. And it was so sudden.
I mean, she was like dripping blood. Like
there's a lot of blood.
She was really
And she's yelling like, "Do you have anything to say for yourself?" And June's literally just like, "I don't know."
Yeah, it just made me so mad. Like I like that Serena acted like June had any power to say no to Fred.
Oh my god, I know.
Like it was her idea to do any of it.
It's insane. And June didn't even bother to say that, like, obviously it wasn't my choice, even though because she knew it would do no good.
No, it'd make it worse.
Even though it's like the most obvious thing in the world, right?
And then Serena says to her, "You could have left me with something."
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe tell your fucking husband not to take the handmaid to a sex club. I don't know. Like it just thoughts.
How is this on me? Your marriage.
Yeah.
But then Serena also says to June, "I trusted you. I tried to help you." I'm like, come on, really? Really? You trusted her? No, you didn't.
When did she try to help her? She gave her a music box?
How did you try to help her?
I don't recall that scene.
I don't either.
Isn't that typical? Like what happens mostly when there's like an infidelity in a marriage? Don't we tend to judge the other woman more harshly than the husband that made the vows?
Mm-hmm.
True.
Society does, definitely.
Definitely.
Yeah, I try not to, but
I don't.
Right. So then she, has her she takes her to the bathroom, and it's not been so long since we've seen the other Waterford demeaning her in the bathroom, and now Serena does it and has her pee on the pregnancy stick while she's like staring at her while there's blood trickling down her head. Funny when June says, I can't pee right now. She's like, don't be a child. But like, it's all so demeaning, everything from each of them. It's like different, but just so cruel. way that they treat her. So she manages to pee on the stick, and Serena tells her to get down on her knees and pray that God makes her worthy. And she does get down on her knees, which is surprising to me. And
well, I think she got down on her knees because she was woozy. Like she was.
Okay, so because that's how she fell. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I meant to rewind it and watch that again because I was like, wait, she's on her knees. But yeah, she seemed to like fall off the toilet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, she was like, because she definitely had to have had a concussion. So she was not.
Yeah.
Jesus.
She's not okay.
I like how the show lets you know that, you know, they're only worthy if they can be mothers, which is also kind of how society sometimes makes women feel.
Yeah.
Then we watched Serena waiting for the test result.
Yeah.
And at first it's when I watched it the first time, it was unclear to me if she was happy or upset. But then we find out that she's very happy and June's pregnant, and Serena does that personality switch that she's so good at.
Which, by the way, so one thing I really noticed in this episode is they used light a lot to like portray different things.
Yeah.
Like when she held up the Jezebel's dress, like in the light there, and you could see right through it. But that scene where Serena is looking at the pregnancy test and she lays on the ground, half of her is dark and half of her is light.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Showing like her two-faced personality, you know.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, and I like the back and forth shots of them both on their knees. I thought that was really well done. Yeah, because clearly they're both on their knees, but they're not wanting the same thing either. And that's especially true when Serena comes and tells June she's pregnant. You know, God has answered our prayers, and June says, "You think I prayed for this, to bring a baby into this house?" Like, you know,
again, her acting there is just so good. Like her just deflatedness, you know, like the worst possible thing that could have happened to me just happened. You know, she's an incredible actor. They both are, obviously. Yeah, and June closes her eyes just like devastated, and Serena keeps saying like, he answered our prayers. And then June says, "You think I prayed for this? You think I prayed for a baby in this house?" And then Serena says, "God knows what's in your heart." Serena, you seem to not be getting it. And then she like takes the pregnancy test back with her, and like everything about that scene I think is just brilliant acting. And June ends up watching that stupid music box and letting herself go back to being pregnant with Luke. And they're joking about.
But remember, the music box again is her. It's like a symbol of her feeling trapped. Yeah. So now she's pregnant and she knows she's trapped.
Yeah, more than ever.
In that flashback, he does say she's a fighter like mommy, meaning Hannah, which obviously, again, June is like, it defines her, you know?
Yeah.
So Fred finds Serena in his office, which is not allowed. So he says, "Is everything all right?" and asks her to leave because he has a conference call in 5 minutes. And then he throws her a bone and tells her like a little intel that they caught some more Marthas planning some kind of attack. And she's just sitting in front of the Scrabble tiles that have clearly been used, Scrabble game, and says, "I forget how many tiles do you pick to start?" And I was curious if he was going to just answer honestly, and he did 7. But then he basically says, you know, "No, I'm not going to play with you. You know the rules. You wrote the rules." And she says, "I remember." So Serena did write the law.
Well, he says, "You know the law." And then she says, "I helped write it," which again is like more proof that Serena, she legit mentions that she helped write the law, meaning
that's
she
what I
helped
liked.
Create all this mess.
Yeah. And then she starts to, you know, she's calling him out on the June stuff, and he tells her they can talk about it another time. And Serena's threatening him, and she uses one of her favorite lines, "Do you understand me, Fred?"
Yeah.
Because she won't have this handmaid kill herself like the other, entirely because she cares about the baby, not the handmaid. We know that.
I think that line is interesting though, because we hear her say, "Do you understand me?" to June earlier in the season,
right?
When she like gets down and screams at her.
Yeah.
Because she's trying to have the power over June, where he's here. She says to Fred, "Do you understand me?" But if you notice, she's very like quiet about it because he holds the power over her in that situation.
That is an interesting difference. And he blames it on her for having sex with him. "You brought sin in here on your back."
That was my next
and
note.
On your knees.
They're just so toxic.
Oh my God, I know.
Incredibly toxic. Oh my goodness. That was when they were having that back and forth. I was like, you two are just
Well, they're both like narcissists, so they blame the other. I mean, nobody's ever going to fess up that it was their
But
fault.
it's interesting because they were better pre-Gilead. And again, like we talked about in a previous episode, I think that's because Serena was allowed to be the alpha, which is what their natural power composition should be. And look at them now.
Yeah, Gilead tends to poison everything anyway, so.
Yes, it does.
Power corrupts, and Fred got it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, Serena pushed him to it. So
right.
She's laying on the bed that she laid herself.
And then he tells her to go to her room, and she drops the mic. She's pregnant.
Which, by the way, I wanted to point out too, another thing, I noticed a few things in this episode. Like Serena tells June, don't be a child, which was ridiculous.
Yes.
But then you have Fred telling Serena, go to your room.
Yeah.
Treating her like she's a child. Yeah. So again, like that power, like June is the only person Serena really has power over, and she
can do that too.
She thrives on that, you know.
Right. Yeah. And then he says, praise be.
She gives him like 15 seconds
I know.
to sit there and think, maybe it's mine. And then, oh, it's not yours.
He looks shocked. Like he looks very surprised, as if maybe, you know.
She gave him just enough time to let it sink in that maybe it could be his.
Feel good for a second.
Yeah. And then she yanked that right away from him. And that was what a power play on her part.
Oh man, yeah.
She loved saying that to him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she did.
That's why she gave the pause first. Yeah, it isn't yours. You're weak, and God would never let you pass on that weakness. You can't father a child because you're not worthy. And then she leaves him like stunned. I do question why he didn't question further whose child it is or have more problems with that, but it's delightful delivery. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he cares.
Yeah,
and
whatever.
Yeah, he might have known on some level, or like Scarlett said, he just didn't care.
Yeah,
it wasn't his, so he doesn't give a shit.
But it helps their family.
The baby's not for the men. The baby's for the women, you know, and for status.
It's for status,
to fulfill their Gilead duty. It's for status. So he doesn't really care. And if Serena's busy with a baby, she'll leave him alone. Like this was classic, like toxic marriage. This whole scene, especially his justification to, you know, if I cheated on you, it was your fault because either you did something or you didn't do something. It wasn't because I'm, you know, that's my nature.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
And all she wants is a baby, and he knows that.
Yeah. But I think he thinks it, like, I think he values it for himself too. Like you said, like status. I think it's kind of a big deal among the commanders. He likes to rub things into.
I just think he wants people to know he can get somebody pregnant. Like it makes him feel like I'm a man, even though he knows it's not his. They don't, you know? Right. So he's like,
yeah,
that's true.
Yeah.
Finally, I'm a man.
Yeah, I think ultimately he wouldn't care. He can still reap all the benefits of the baby. Yeah. He gets the status, but it doesn't matter who actually fathered the baby. There, Gilead is going to consider the baby his. So
exactly,
it doesn't matter.
And he's never going to be a good dad. So
yeah,
whatever. But yeah, that was a sick burn. I did like that Serena drop. Then June walks into the kitchen, and then I'm reminded of the last time that they thought she was pregnant because Rita's acting different again. Like genuinely ecstatic. She's super excited, and June's genuinely depressed. And Rita even like kisses her cheek, and June sits. And then my favorite scene.
Well, actually, but backing up, I thought it was interesting because Rita asked June if she's feeling okay, which obviously like she's happy, so she's thinking of the baby. But June touches her head and was like, I'm okay, you know. So I feel like June is not really thinking like, are you feeling okay, as in like morning sickness. She's like, I just had a concussion and a cut on my head, and that's what I'm concerned about.
That's
you know
what I'm thinking. Yeah.
I just want to say it's been 4.5 years since the time I saw this scene for the first time, and I'm still not over it. It's still to this day I have to pause it. I get overwhelmed. It's very emotional. It's very good.
It's beautiful. It's
so
beautiful. Scene.
Yeah.
Oh God, it's amazing. So he walks in and he's taking his gloves off, and he says, "Are you okay?" He's obviously really worried about her.
He looks so angry there though, which I love. Because he looks,
yes, he does.
Because if you notice, he looks at June and then he looks over towards the kitchen where he knows like Serena would be.
Yeah.
And he's pissed off that she's hurt.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like there's also a little bit of like, I knew this was going to happen in his reaction to, you know, not in a shitty way at all. Just like his.
The consequences are never going to be good for her going to Jezebel's with him twice.
Right.
Right.
So yeah, so And she still looks so sad, but she's a little softer with him, a lot softer with him. And
notice too how the light again in this scene is very, like, the kitchen is very bright, like it's, which it always is with them, but like I think again, like they're playing with light in this episode, and it's the brightest scene in the episode.
I feel like it's like the truth.
So he says, super worried. What happened? She found out about the commander, and he nods because it's what he feared and knew was inevitable. But then he's like completely blown away by what she says next,
which is so funny to me because, like, obviously
that's why they were doing it.
Yeah, right.
Obviously, they had a lot of sex. So how are you surprised?
Yeah, the face journey he goes on, like after she says I'm pregnant, is amazing. Like it's stun, it's wonder, it's all of that, and just kudos to Max Minghella for that. Like all the emotions on his face, and this whole scene is just
he emotes so well. It was like sheer amazement on so many levels. Like he was confused and excited and
terrified, like everything.
A million different emotions in one look.
In a second, he just concentrated all on her.
I think he's just in awe. He's in awe of her.
Yeah.
Like stunned and like, oh my gosh, and went right down on his knees. Like it was that was it for him.
That was it. So amazing. Like all she does in Gilead is kneel before men, right? Mm-hmm. And here is a man getting on his knees next to her. Mm-hmm. Immediately, like silently vowing to protect them.
Exactly.
It's just, oh my God.
She's so nervous to tell him. You could tell, like, she's kind of like, her eyes are kind of darting all around, like she doesn't really know how he's going to react to this, especially because remember they had broken up.
Yeah.
Which, is so funny. I remember I read the interview where Lizzie said that, and I remember thinking, well, how does she not know how he was going to react? Because when I watched it, it felt so natural.
Yeah.
Like, of course, that's how he was going to react.
Yeah.
But I wasn't thinking about it from her point of view. Like, oh, we're broken up. He might not be happy about this, or care. And then, of course, he didn't do anything but care. Yeah, he's in love immediately.
He's so in love. You can just see it. And then she sees it.
The switch it changed everything for him. I mean, he pledged, like Tina has said, he pledged his life basically to her now. It's like, nope. It's all yours.
Right.
Like that's it. Nothing else matters but you and this child. I will risk my life for you.
Absolutely.
And I feel like when he broke up with her, like I definitely think he regretted it immediately that he shouldn't have done that. So this scene right here, like the second she tells him obviously he made a mistake breaking up with her, but what I really love about this is the fact that like the second she tells him she's pregnant, he's completely all in. Like he forgets about his fears, he forgets about everything, and like immediately he's like focused on her and their baby and their family, and I just love that so much.
I do too.
Yeah, his allegiance is them. No.
Yeah. And hers, like her kind of shock at it as June when she like sees the love like emanating out of him and how happy he is and awed, and she's like risks putting her hand on his, and it's just like beautiful.
And when she says it's terrible, and his immediate reaction is no, it's not. There's that faraway shot where he's got his hand on her stomach, and she looks at him, and you can tell when she looks at him, she knows he's not just saying that to make me feel better. He means it. He 100% means this is not terrible.
No.
And she knows it.
She's so affected by that too.
Yeah.
Like I feel like she tries to really push her feelings down a lot.
Yeah.
And she couldn't do that here with him.
Right.
No, she switched to happiness. It was like she was dread, and then his reaction, and she was able to get excited about it. Like you could kind of sense like, oh yeah, it's our baby. It's like
it is. It changed her entire perspective.
I'm excited. It really did. It's like, this is my baby. This is our baby.
Yeah. I feel like he gives her hope,
Yeah.
It goes back to him knowing what she feels and grounding her and giving her exactly that hope. Like he knows how to kind of like change the perspective for her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, it's their baby, and nobody can take that away from them. Even though, Fred and Serena are coming, it's not going to change that baby's DNA. That is their baby.
Right.
Nobody can take that away.
And they have 10 months. Okay, 9 months, 10 months, 9.5 to figure that out.
And I love how, like, he puts his hand on her stomach and then she puts her hand over his, which to me is like symbolizing that they're accepting now that they're a family,
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, stop it. I'm gonna start crying.
She's overcome.
All right. It's
I'm telling you,
scene.
this is the scene that like hooked me on this ship. So it's got a very like deep, it's very special to me. So
it means a lot to all of
us.
It's
me too, Tina. I feel me too.
Yeah.
And then obviously Serena sees him reacting this way and he doesn't change. Like he doesn't get up right away. He very slowly gets up and drags his hand.
I love that so much because
and the shoulder squeeze.
He's looking at her and then he sees Serena and he just does not care that she saw them. Like, because obviously he's pissed at her for hurting June.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love that, like, he sees Serena and like he could have like jumped up and tried to pretend like he wasn't.
Didn't. Also, the look of shock on Serena's face is also very.
What was she gonna do? Like, and I think he knew that, right? Like, what are you gonna do? She's pregnant. You can't hurt her now.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do?
You made us do it.
You made us do it illegally. So he knows now they have a smidge of power over her. Yeah, they have a safety net.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, it's delightful scene.
I think Serena knows that because when he walks over, Serena gives him a look. I mean, a weird look. I don't know how you guys read it. When
she looked kind of nervous, almost like
nervous.
Was afraid of him or something.
But then she was a bigger bitch because he asked her like, "Do you need the car?" And she's like, "No, I made other arrangements."
She was smart to make other arrangements. I will give her that.
And Nick looked concerned.
Obviously, we're gonna find out why she made other fucking arrangements. I hate this scene coming up.
She knew that Nick would not be okay with what was going to happen.
Of course. Yeah. Well,
Nick probably would have killed her. I'm just saying, like, he might have.
Yeah, but Nick looked concerned and he actually watches them like as they walk out. But he just stands in the kitchen like staring after them.
I feel like his wheels are turning right then and there. His wheels
absolutely.
are turning. If you look at that scene, it's like he's sitting there going, I mean, it comes up in the episode. His wheels are turning. How do I protect my family already?
Right. Mm-hmm. I agree.
In that scene.
I had an observation about that whole scene because I feel like this entire scene between the two of them and then all the way through Serena coming in is like Nick's protective instincts are like on high alert. Mm-hmm. And I really loved like how he just looked so pissed at Serena. And I think he looked very stern, which to me, it seemed like Serena was really unnerved by him. And so like, I feel like his fatherly instincts have already kicked in here. And then when they leave, June gets up to get her cloak. He walks over and like his stance is open and his balls his hands into a fist, which is him like being super protective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he still looked pissed off, which again, like I just think it was a power move there too,
Yeah, there was something because the camera stays on him.
He also doesn't know where she's going to be taken also. So he's obviously going to be worried.
Which is true.
Yeah.
But we do know that he knows Serena wouldn't hurt her. I mean, she has
at this point, yes,
a precious commodity. So at least he
only
knows
emotionally.
She won't be physically harmed. Emotionally, but
so there's this Variety article that Elizabeth Moss was interviewed after the finale, and there was this really good quote that applied to this whole scene, which I thought was really good. I wanted to read. She goes, "I love the dynamic between Nick and June. That love story is really special to me. And the idea that she's just so conflicted about being pregnant. And when he has that reaction and she doesn't know how he's going to react, when he has that reaction that he does of love, it gets me. That scene, and it got me when we were shooting it. It was just so simple and so compassionate and full of true love coming from him. And I think that breaks down her barriers as well. She's pregnant and it's not necessarily the best thing, but it's also, she's pregnant with this man who she's fallen in love with, it's very complicated.
Oh my God.
There we said it. She's fallen in love with
You need to send that around. I need to read that every day.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's such a good quote.
God, it's
but
beautiful.
I love how she confirms that she's in love with him at this point. I mean, we all knew that, but it's nice to hear her.
She doesn't say
that.
it. It's nice to hear it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then they go on their long drive and then they flash to Moira. I guess she's dressed as a guardian and dogs are barking and she sneaks into this garage and wipes the license plate clean. And
I thought of you, Kate.
I know.
With the license plate. I wrote it down. I was like, I'm sure Kate's gonna write it down because she's our license plate expert, but I did write it down in case you didn't.
So it's such a good one because I didn't have to research it or anything. They made it really easy.
Yeah.
So she's in Canada, which is super exciting, but also funny is that the license plate is 3,845 dicks.
That's what I thought too. I was like significance, but I think it's 3,845 dicks.
What she felt she was inundated with at Jezebel's, and now she's free. I'm not analyzing it any further. That is what I read into it.
That's what I read into it too. Yes.
And it delighted me. But also it's also delightful that she is escaped and she's in Canada.
Yes.
And then back to Serena and June in the car, and Serena's knitting. June's looking at the needle, maybe wondering if she could stab her with it. I don't know. She's looking at
it. Which is funny because she does it a lot. She did that in episode 5 where she was looking at
shears. Yeah. I mean, you would do it a lot too, I bet.
I'm sure it crosses her mind.
Yeah, before she got in the car, she looked at the Guardian's gun too.
Oh, did?
Yeah, she did.
Well, that makes sense. But anyway, so June's locked in the car and then she still has no idea where she's going the whole time. She doesn't know where she is when they get there. And then she sees Serena interacting with who we discover is her daughter, Hannah, as she's frantically like banging on the glass and screaming. Oh, it's awful.
Like a caged animal.
And she hasn't seen Hannah in 4 years, right? This is the very first time that she's seen, her daughter.
Serena when they got in the car, Serena tells her, don't touch the curtains.
Yeah.
Obviously, because she doesn't want June to know where she's going. So she doesn't have access to Hannah, which I think is an extra step of just how fucking vile she is. I mean, how can she expect to be a mother when you're parading the child that, your country ripped out of her arms 4 years ago?
Yeah, it's awful. Just
to threaten her with it. I mean, if people don't understand how heartless Serena was just by doing that, and she's pregnant, like, she's supposed to be healthy mentally and physically. To do that was just, for me, was unforgivable. That's like
Yeah, it's just awful.
It's unspeakably cruel what she did to her.
It is. Serena is good at being unspeakably cruel.
Especially right after telling her that she's pregnant, like making her take a pregnancy test,
Yeah.
The emotional roller coasters are like crazy.
She threatens her.
Yeah.
Like, if your child, she justifies it first. Like, she's happy, she's a great child, like she's good, we kidnapped her, but she's better off, and if she's okay, if my child is okay, yours is going to be okay. So that's just an open threat.
Oh, I can't even stand it when she says that. When she says, as long as my baby is safe, so is yours, I'm like, you vile bitch.
I know.
That is neither one of them are your babies.
Exactly.
Like that, those are June's children.
Does somebody have the rant that
I do.
June goes on?
Can
somebody read it? Can somebody read it? I love it. Yay.
Because it's so delightful that she has the panel down a little while, she hears everything that June says. Yeah. So after that threat, June says, how can you do this? You're deranged. You're fucking evil. You know that? You're a goddamn motherfucking monster. Fucking heartless, sadistic, motherfucking evil cunt. Fuck you, Serena. You're going to burn in goddamn motherfucking hell, you crazy evil bitch.
Yes.
And it's perfect. It's like everything I want to say to Serena.
Check.
She unleashed like a season's worth of anger on her.
Oh, and she didn't roll up the divider first.
Oh, it was beautiful. It was a beautiful thing.
Me too.
And then Serena's response, don't get upset. That's not good for the baby.
So
Yet
rude.
you just drove her into a situation you knew would upset her.
Yeah.
So let's add hypocrite onto that list too, June. Come on, you forgot one.
She just physically abused her. Now she's emotionally abusing her, but don't get upset because it's not good for the baby. Like, you really care.
That's my problem with the people that say Serena, like, she's only doing all this for a baby, but she abuses emotionally and literally physically also the baby's carrier constantly, which should and would result in a miscarriage. Like, you cannot tell me that she cares about that baby because of the way that, let's say you call her, you think of her as a vessel. I see. Okay. You're treating that vessel like shit, like, I don't believe you. I don't believe you care about the baby either. You just care about power and being an evil cunt.
Yeah. And it doesn't make it okay. It doesn't make it okay just because she's doing it because she wants a baby.
No,
She's
even if that were true, yeah.
Yeah. That argument is not, it just,
There's
no,
nothing. It goes
doesn't
nowhere.
work with me.
And then she raises the divider, but I was so delighted to listen to that a few times. Then he flashed to Warren before the council begging for mercy. Is this the first time we've seen the council? I kind of like the setup of the
Yeah.
council.
I think so, yeah.
Cinematographically, it's nice. It's
Yeah.
very dark, and the spotlights are on the speaker, and Warren's, begging for mercy, and then they ask him to leave, and Fred tries to dismiss it entirely. He says, "Oh, we're busy. We've got afternoons ahead of us. Let's not bother punishing him." And Price is like, "Well, we're not too busy to punish sin." And Fred's like, "Well, that's true, but let's remember he has a family." And I love it when Price drops, yeah, you're right. Naomi came to me. Warren's wife came to me. And he's like, "See?" And he's like, "And asked for the maximum penalty." And I'm just like, yes.
Love that.
Good for
And the look
you.
on Fred's face when he says that, he's like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially because he was just trying to sweep it all under the rug, like Kate said, because he's doing the same shit.
Exactly.
So he doesn't want them to punish him because
he even says, "Who among us haven't made mistakes?"
Yeah.
Yeah. It looked like a lot of them were in the same boat as Fred.
Yeah.
Like, let's just, give him a little slap on the wrist, not actually take the rest,
Yeah.
Fred also knows that Serena's conniving and she would do the same thing.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's why it translates to a little further down the episode. That scene translates to something that Fred's going to do, towards the end.
They switch from this dark council room to like the most blindingly bright operating room, and the very gory, detailed amputation.
I can't watch
I
it.
like how they take off the wedding ring first. Like, I feel like that's a symbol.
Yeah, it's very appropriate in this case. And the blood is dripping, which reminded me of June earlier. But anyway, so much blood dripping in the show. Another drill, another tool. And also, I like when you can hear them throw his arm in the trash. So then we flash to June knocking on Nick's door, but he's not home, and the lights are all on, but he's not home, and the door is locked. So that is strange. And she's distraught about Hannah, so she feels like she has to go to Fred. I mean, Nick wasn't going to be able to help. She was just going to vent.
So I have a question. Do we think she was going? What do you think she was going to Nick for? Do you think she was going to him to ask for help protecting Hannah? Because that's what she goes to Fred about. So I assume that's what she had on her mind when she was going to Nick.
I think she was just upset. I think that she goes to Nick when she's upset and angry, and Serena treated her like shit, and she saw her daughter, and there's a lot to unpack and unload, and she can do that with Nick. And she's not going to do all that with Fred.
I think it's both though, because I think at that point she knows he's an eye. And obviously she's distraught over everything that happened with Hannah. So I think she needed the comfort, but also probably would have asked him, like, can we do anything about this?
Yeah. I think she just needed to vent too, just to be like, I can't believe, what just happened. This vile, just tell him everything, how she feels about Serena. Just vent.
It's the only place she can go and scream and yell and say,
Plus, they have a lot to talk about, knowing they're both parents now.
Yes. Like names. They should pick out a name.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
I did like though that she stopped for a second to sit on his steps and gather herself, because that is almost like her safe space.
Yeah, she still stayed there. Yeah.
Yeah,
like,
she still stayed. Yeah.
I didn't think about it enough, but I noted, wait, she sat there, and then I got distracted. So wow. Yeah. That's cool.
I also think it was interesting too. It was snowing. So like it's easier to get caught going there in the snow because of the footprints and her hand on the rail.
Burton LeBlanc made me think of that.
But at that point, she just doesn't give a shit anymore because she's over caring after what just transpired.
God, the days she's had. And then that's actually what Fred says when she goes to his office. He's like, "Oh, I've had a day." And I'm just like,
and in his office, she didn't put on her usual act that she normally does, where she's all flirty and she just doesn't care.
She's very direct. And she very directly says, "I need you to protect my daughter from Mrs. Waterford." And he says she'd never hurt a child. I love that June just looks at him directly and says, "You don't know her. She would hurt a child. She would hurt anyone's child but hers. She would hurt anyone." And then he switches topics and says, "I hear congratulations are in order. Praise be, such wonderful news, a miracle really." And June's still just like thinking about like her immediate like Hannah problem. and not really paying attention to him until he says, "Is it mine?" And then she's like,
Of course.
a little, shocked, and looks up, and she doesn't say it convincingly, but he says, "You say that you do that so well."
So he knew she was lying,
You
right?
lie so well.
And he acknowledged
He
it.
knew she was lying. Correct. Okay.
100%.
That's also what I picked up on, which
Because she didn't put on her usual act again. Like she's just like, oh yeah, yours. Like not like, oh Fred, like batting her eyelashes like she would,
So that's why he says, "You do that so well, lying to me."
Yeah.
He had her number there.
And then it flashes to her. She's staring out the window holding this key in her hand, I guess to the music box. Do you know the relevance of that? I couldn't quite figure out why she was staring out the window with the key in her hand. But maybe it's no reason. And then she goes to the tub, or she remembers the letter or the package, and goes to the tub and unwraps the letters and starts to read all these letters from different women trapped in Gilead. Hundreds of letters.
I have a question. The letters, obviously that was the package. We didn't know what the package was. She was not supposed to open it. Why would Mayday want to move? What would you guys think wanted to move those letters? Like, what was the importance of the letters to Mayday? I mean, obviously it's a testimony of what was going on in Gilead. Obviously we find that out when June starts reading them. So I have a doubt, so she was supposed to get the letters and keep them until she got further instructions.
I think that they're people that have families out there, and I mean, I think it is very meaningful and necessary to try to get 100 and hundreds of women's stories out. Yeah. But also tell their family where they are. It has.
Then it's proof it's not just an isolated incident, right? It's this is what happens to everybody here.
Yeah. For publicity and individual.
I feel like these letters must have been written so that they can get out somewhere, so that everybody outside of Gilead knows that all of these women had their children stolen from them and have been raped. And I think they use the line, "Treat us like animals,"
But I also think individually, Luke would like to hear from June, and Dave would like to hear from me. And I don't know, I think that it matters.
I understand that point, but is Mayday going to risk having that package that's so damning and you can die just to have it? If I don't know, I have that doubt in my mind. Wouldn't you just bury it and then hope eventually somebody would find it, and then you'll get the accounts of the women that were there? Why make them travel? It's a risk for anybody to have them. It's a risky thing.
I also don't know if people around the world know what's truly going on. I mean, look at the Mexican ambassador. She had no idea, right? So this way, that
exactly.
If they got out, people would actually know what's going on. It's all propaganda at this point. Everybody thinks that the handmaids are there because they want to be, and they're doing the service.
Right.
Yeah.
Gilead is promoting that children are sacred and these handmaids are doing a wonderful thing. And obviously they're not telling about the horrors of what's actually happening.
Yeah. They're just getting the truth out. The truth needs to come out.
Yeah.
Also, I think people just react much better to human stories that, they can connect to. So to get real accounts from people, that's going to get people talking. It's going to get in the news. So that, to me, I think would be worth the risk.
Yeah.
I agree.
So then we flash to Moira at the refugee center, and she's super shell-shocked, not comfortable. And he says, "Sorry, you don't get anyone for days." And suddenly you get 15 people at once. And do you have any family? And she says no. And he gives her a refugee ID card. You'll be assigned a caseworker. Here's $470 in cash, medical insurance card, prescription card, clothes. He's giving her all this stuff, which is super helpful. And it's interesting to see how the refugee situation works once you cross the border. But she's very overwhelmed. And then, and that's the end of that scene. She's still just totally shell-shocked when she's walking around with all her stuff.
She's just alone, and she has to start her life over from zero. She doesn't get to go back to her old life, which is what people kind of hold on to. She's just literally alone with a bag after going through what she went through. It's, when you think about it, it's really fucked up.
Right. It's terrifying. So then they flash to Fred greeting Serena. Good morning. She's setting up the bassinet already, as she's wont to do. And she says, "What do you want, Fred?" Just to the point. And he apologizes for the cruel things he did to her. And she cuts him off as he's acting all religious and shit about confessing his sins. But she then kind of softens to him, I think. And, they've decided they're going to be a family together and look forward to the future. Sorry. Tina just made a face.
Yeah, nothing makes me angrier than the Waterfords talking about June and Nick's baby like they had anything to do with it. And just, oh my goodness. Anyway, that's it. That's my only thought. I'm mad about it.
Yeah.
Well, he also only apologizes to her because he doesn't want her to do the same thing to him that Naomi did to Putnam.
Yes, Warren.
Exactly. That's the manipulation right there.
And I also noticed, again, like going along with the whole, like the way they use light in this episode, the baby's room is a very bright room. And I thought it was interesting that for a bright room, Serena and Fred were both very dark.
They even comment on the light. He says, like, there's a lot of light in here in the morning.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, it's funny because you guys are dark. And then you have, this is coming after the scene where you have Nick and June and they're like as bright as can be,
Right. That's interesting. So then there's a bell ringing, I think, and Offgun's being a bitch to June again, telling her she's the worst. And June tells her to shut up. And I actually feel like maybe they were being halfway friends at that moment. I'm not sure. Maybe not. Maybe they're just hating on each other.
Yeah, it felt like a very genuine moment between them.
Yeah. And then they get there and they're they're like pouring out stones. They're dumping out a bunch of stones on the ground, and Alma says, I hate stoning. Which
I thought it was so funny the way she says it. Oh man, I hate stonings. Like the way I would say when I go to work, oh, I hate group meetings.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Something so horrifying has just become like, oh, it's another Tuesday. We have a stoning. I hate stonings. It's just so bizarre. Just like everything in Gilead.
Yeah. And this whole thing too is a parallel to the first episode because there was the 3 bells for the salvaging
at the end of the first episode.
Yeah, and then we're going to a salvaging now, so it's like
the finale.
They start out the season that way and we're ending it that way.
Yeah, and that's so we haven't seen a stoning yet either, right? Which is why.
Not yet.
Yeah. And everybody kind of senses something's different and off. I don't know if it's Aunt Lydia's speech she's giving or what, but it's like everybody's kind of looking around.
I think it's because she sounded emotional.
Because Aunt Dad's amazing.
Yes.
She's so good in the scene. I mean, she's so good in the whole show, obviously, but
yeah,
the scene really struck
me.
This
scene really highlights how talented she is.
She makes a big deal about the space between them again, by the way, like in the beginning of this episode, like be mindful of the space between you. Equidistance, ladies. And then they finally see Janine being walked out and they're all obviously looking at each other, just like frantic. And she's being her crazy self, like happily waving at them. And Janine, who is Off Daniel now, I forgot, but Off Daniel has been convicted of endangering a child, and Aunt Lydia seems sad, but she's telling them this has to be done, like sacrifices, challenges. The Lord requires challenges. So she's, I don't know if she blows a whistle yet, but Janine laughs awkwardly and looks around at everybody and says, "Not too hard, okay?" It's so sad.
Oh,
poor Janine. Oh wait, I had one more comment. I wanted to add something for when you were talking about when she was giving the speech and like she seemed emotional.
Yeah.
Aunt Lydia said, "There's no greater sin than putting a child in danger," which I just thought was funny because Serena basically just did that with Hannah, like threatened her and, so that June doesn't hurt her baby. So I just think it's interesting that like, this is the sin we're talking about. Yeah. Here we have Serena committing that sin.
Right.
I think that's when June knew Janine was going to come out when she said that line. There's no greater thing than that. I think she was like, that's, oh my goodness, who just almost hurt a child. It was Janine on the bridge. And so you could see her eyes. She's like, no way. Is Janine going to come out? You can see it.
Can we talk about how crazy it is that they saved her at the hospital in order to stone her to death? Like, come on.
Gotta make an example of her. Gotta make an example of her.
Okay, and then Offglen is the one that speaks up and says, "We can't do this. Seriously, no, I'm not going to do it." And she's like, continues, just, "No, we're not going to do this." And
which is interesting again because Offglen was the one yelling at June earlier in the season about not breaking the rules because she's good and she's happy. So she's the one speaking up first, which I was kind of excited about.
I was too, because you didn't get that. You didn't know that yet. And there's a line for her too, and I love that. But she gets knocked out with the butt of a rifle, and Janine is like worried about her. You can see her like.
I thought that was so sweet. Like she's about to get stoned to death, and she's like, "Is she okay?" Like, oh, she's so pure. Oh, I love her so much.
And Aunt Lydia starts yelling and blowing the whistle, and nobody moves. And finally, June moves. Also, the music's perfect. Adam Taylor is amazing. Yeah. It just fits the scene perfectly. And June steps towards Janine, but not in a threatening manner. So, Aunt Lydia knows she's not about to stone her, and she's alarmed. And the Guardians pull their gun on June too. And Lydia comes down and stops him from shooting her. She says, "These girls are my responsibility." And you can kind of see the relief on June's face. I mean, she was going to do it anyway, but you can kind of see the moment where she's like, okay, I'm not going to die right now because of this. So.
And I think that also shows Lydia's warped view of these girls. Like, she literally has all these handmaids gathered to stone one of them to death, but then she's protecting them from a guardian, saying they're her responsibility. Yeah. So it just kind of shows that she does love them, but the way that she loves them is just so messed up.
I mean, I know they're all very complicated characters in this show, but Aunt Lydia's, she's something. And yeah, she does care about them. I mean, I think that's a fact. Yeah, so June, Lydia runs down and stops him from shooting her, and June sticks her hand out, slowly, and drops a stone in slow motion, and you hear it hit the ground, and then says, I'm sorry, Aunt Lydia. And then one by one, like each of the women do that, each of the handmaids do that, and I love it.
But June is like she's such like the leader of the army here. Yeah.
Right. Which, like you said, we kind of saw like earlier in the season when they were all like giving her their food because she had gotten tortured.
Well, Lydia says to them, "Go home and think about what you've done." Yeah. Which again is like this whole theme of talking to them like they're children,
You're so right.
I like how June looks serene in that scene, but I also think that she knew nothing was going to happen to her. Nobody knew that she's pregnant, but she knows she's pregnant. So I don't think she was at risk.
So that article that I referenced earlier, that Variety one, that Elizabeth Moss, the interviewer actually asked her about that. And she said that she didn't think that June was even thinking about the pregnancy at that point. She was just basically like so over everything because of like seeing Hannah was the last straw for her. So at this point, like she basically just doesn't care.
And then they walk out. Like there's probably something that happens in between now and then, but the way that they walk out together like an army, like it's perfect for the quote that she opens with.
Oh, good. Yes, yeah.
And they each like peel off until it's just June. So like you said, it's very clear who the leader of this army is. Mm-hmm. And they're playing, what's the song?
Feeling Good.
Feeling Good. It's perfect. The music is perfect in every scene. All right, so then it flashes to Moira, and she's still looking terrified and out of place. And this scene actually like makes me cry every time. This is my favorite Luke scene.
Yeah.
Luke and Moira scene. I love it so much. And she sees Luke through the door, like down the hallway, and actually they do like the Nick and June greeting. They say hey and hi. And she says, "How are you here?" And she totally does, like she clearly doesn't understand or believe why he would be here. And you're on my list. Your list of family. Yeah, of course. And she just starts sobbing and like clinging to him. And she didn't think she had any family, anybody that would care about her, count her as family, and put her as family. And they didn't always get along before Gilead, but they are family, and it's just tears.
Yeah, I did think it was incredibly sweet of him to put her on his list.
Yeah.
I love that. No, I mean, literally, I tear up every time.
Yeah.
And I like too how they did the transition between, they showed June marching like to the Waterford's house, and then they show Moira like marching, like they kind of flash between that. Yeah. So it's almost like Moira is like marching to freedom, whereas June is like marching as like the leader of this handmaid army.
Rebel handmaids, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So then she knows what's coming. She's up in her room looking out the window, waiting. And she says, "This could be the last time I have to wait, but I don't know what I'm waiting for. I ought to be terrified, but I feel serene. There's even a kind of hope, it seems, even in futility. I tried to make things better for Hannah, to change the world, even just a little bit." And then the black van pulls up.
I like how she uses the word serene though, because it's so close to Serena.
Yeah.
Which I always just laugh at the fact that her name is Serena Joy, because those words do not describe her at all.
Not even close.
No.
Just also on that, like, I don't know, I feel like when you're like constantly terrified of something happening, that when it happens, it must almost feel like not a relief, but maybe a relief. Like, just they've been scared of the black van every time it drives by them, right? And this time she knows the black van is coming for her, but she did something like worthy in exchange. I don't know.
She knows there's nothing she can do about it, so she just succumbs to whatever it is going to happen is going to happen.
And then Nick knocks and walks in, and she's on the windowsill sitting, as he's found her many times before. And he approaches her and puts his hands on her like hips and whispers, "Just go with him, trust me," which is how the book ends, right? So then she's walking out, she hugs Rita, who's crying, and you can hear her say bathtub. So Rita goes to look around the bathtub and finds the letters. And June's almost smiling as she's walking out. And maybe the most enjoyable part was for her is like Serena freaking out and yelling at her, "What did you do after everything we've done for you?"
And she knows Serena can't stop it.
Yeah.
So.
Right.
Because the look she gives her is just so good when Serena says, "After everything we've done for you." Like, really? What have you done for me?
Torture and abuse. God, I can't imagine why I want to leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, going with the eyes maybe sounds more appealing than staying here with you.
And Fred too, he's useless. Like, they're all useless in this. Like, he's upset with his inability to affect the situation. And June walks down the stairs outside, and she looks up at Fred and Serena in the house that she's leaving, and she doesn't know where she's going, but I think she's pretty happy about leaving there at the moment.
And I think it's interesting too, because Fred and Serena are standing there, and like they're standing at the top of the stairs, which I feel like kind of is a parallel to Nick standing in the kitchen watching her leave with Serena. Because like in that kitchen, there's one step. I think there's one step that goes up from like the dining area.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that was him like he's a step above, but it's more of him being protective. And then I think it's interesting that Fred and Serena are up at the top of a lot of stairs and they look pissed off, and it's not really protective. It's more like they see themselves as above her, you know?
Yeah. That sounds like them. And then she says, "Whether this is my end or a new beginning, I have no way of knowing. I've given myself over into the hands of strangers. I have no choice. It can't be helped. And so I step up into the darkness within, or else the light." And she steps into the van, and they start playing She Was an American Girl, which I love also.
Then they have the play with the light again, where they shut the van doors and half of her face is dark and half of her face is light.
You paid a lot of attention to light. You're the light expert.
I did. But there was one other thing I caught too. I thought it was cool when she gets into the van. Her dress almost reminded me of a superhero cape, like Superman's cape.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was cool.
That's awesome.
Yep.
One thing that I noticed when I watched this, like I was thinking about the fact that the eyes came and got June. So this is like the whole season, just about, she's been terrified of the eyes. Like in the beginning, she's anxious about Nick because she thinks he's an eye. And then like, they're always worried about the eyes picking them up. And I think it's interesting because at the end, she really is taken by the eyes, but she's not scared like she thought she would be. Yeah. And I think part of that is because Nick is an eye. And now she has like her own personal eye protecting her. That was really cool.
That is cool.
he told her, "Just go with him, trust me."
Yeah.
So I think she had that in her head too. Like at that point, she trusts him.
But I think it says a lot about them too, that he just says, "Trust me." And she's going with the eyes, and she could be scared shitless, but she's not. She really does trust him, you know?
Yeah.
She does. All right, I think that's a wrap on our spoiler-free analysis of season one of The Handmaid's Tale. Exciting, a whole season.
Yay, we did a whole season. Yay.
So we look forward to, we're going to take a week break, and then we will see you guys in 2 weeks with season 2, episode 1. Thanks for listening.
You know, I think about us, the three of us, what we could be. I think about it all the time.
Please. It's terrible.
No, it's not. I know June. She's my friend. I care about her. How's her day going? You look pretty.
Thanks. I wore it just for you. Her father's a driver named Nick. He helped me to survive. Yes, you can, because I can't lose you.
I'm not gonna let anything happen to you.
What about you?
Your girlfriend is a badass.